Hello. Yes. And it's 12:01. Hi everybody. Welcome. Hi everybody. Welcome. So we're going to just wait for like a few more minutes. Wait for people to join and then we'll get started. Hi Olayemi. Hi P Buzzing. I see you. So we're waiting for more people to join and then you're welcome. Waiting for more people and then we will kick off. Hello. Hi everyone. Hi. I'm waving back. So I'm waiting for some more people to join us. At 12:05 we'll kick off. So please bear with me. I'm just waiting to get more people on. Hello everyone. Yes, the reason why on a normal day I'll have just left it and then let it just record and put it on, but I realized that my network has been messing up of late, so even when I finish it tosses me out and I don't get to record. And then a lot of people are always like, please record so that we can just get the information much later at our own time and pace, but you know, network tosses you out, you don't get to record. So this time around I decided to wait 5 more minutes and then get right into it. So hello, please bear with us. Once it's 12:05 we'll kick off. Yay! Hi everyone, waving right back. Ronke, I'm waving. Hi, I'm waving right back. I hope I'm loud enough though. I feel like I'm not loud enough. I think I am. So yeah, still waiting. 12:03, still waiting. 12:03, still waiting. Da-da-da. Yay, I am. Yeah, I like it. Yay. Don't mind me, I'm a goofball. I like to goof around. It's fun to goof around. Life is too fun when you can. So yeah. For those that know me, they know I like to boogie also. Still waiting. Bam. Yes, as usual, my network is still messing up. So I was right to think that I should wait for a few more people to come. That's what it is. I hope this network is much better than the last one though. But yes, yay, it's 12:06, so let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to start with a brief introduction about myself. Hi Fatih. So yes, hello everyone, welcome. I am Sholakpe Azazi, founder of Cradle Lounge Special Needs Initiative. I'm a certified autism specialist, I'm an inclusion advocate, and I'm an autism parent coach. I'm also a wife and a mother of 2 adorable boys, one of whom is on the autism spectrum. I started this live podcast last year to bring more awareness to autism and how it impacts our lives as caregivers and our relationships. So this week we're doing it differently this week. In the past, we've always had one guest come and share their story, but also I always end up having new parents or people that are on the journey and they're trying to figure out what to do, where to go, and all of that, send me messages. And so this time around, I decided to do it slightly different. So what this one is going to be about is just an information session, so now that you have autism, or you find out that your child has autism, or even what are the signs to look out for, and what is autism anyways, because a lot of times we say, okay, I mean, in the world around, in the Western world, people are moving from the word autism and ASD, and then they're using more of neurodiversity and all of that. So we want to just unpack what all of this is and what it means, and just try to find our bearing on the journey. So let's go. Come along. I hope you're excited, because it's just me this time around. So that means that I'm just going to be blabbing on. So when you think I'm going off point, please draw me back. When you think I'm going too fast, please just send messages. And then it's supposed to be very interactive. So I'm expecting people to jump in at whatever point and just comment and then put your own input and even just share your experience. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a question. It could just be you just sharing your own lived experiences. So I decided, normally I just talk off from my head, but I decided I don't want to derail, like I said. So I have prompters to help me. So I would read from my prompter, and then I'll just just give you the story behind it. So yeah, thank you. So yes, we'll start with this. So when your child first receives an autism diagnosis, it can stir up a whole range of emotions with you as a parent. For some, it's anger and upset. Some is the feeling of being lost and confused. And some is the feeling of being scared of what the future would hold for the child. And, but some also, it just gives them clarity and answer, to what they've been searching and fighting for. And I'll give you an example of how, like I said, I'm just going to, tell you, use my prompters and then just jump into the stories. Last year, I met a mom of a 14-year-old at one of the annual autism conference consultation that I've been sitting on for the past 4 years, 5 years, I can't remember, 4 to 5 years. Anyways, so at one of the consultations, a mom walked up to me, and her son is 14, and she says she's just always known that her son was different, but she didn't know what was different about the son. And so every time, thank you, Muiwa, every time she's done her own bit of the intervention and read and all of that. So a friend said to her that, why don't you just check? Your son might be on the spectrum. And so she came last year, and for her, it was a big relief. I mean, most times, parents on this journey that I've spoken to, most times it's always the grief or the loss or, the why me, or, the anguish is what I always experience with parents. But and I know that some parents say, oh no, for them it's just a relief. So for me, it was like the first time experiencing another parent saying, you know what, now I finally have a name to what it is. And I finally know where to turn to. Because for the life of her, she just felt her son was stubborn. Her son was not, responding to regular things. And so she's done it all and tried to, do her own bit. But she was just at her own ends with. And so for her, she was just like, it's a relief to finally be able to put a label to what is going on with her child. We'll unpack that word label much later, but let's just move on. So I wanted to put in here that however you feel right now, that's for people that are just probably new on the journey, or they're on the journey but they're still struggling, or they've not even still found what they're doing or how to navigate the journey. However you feel right now, it's okay. It's your feeling. Don't let people dictate how you're feeling, because some people will say, oh, you can't be confused. You have to be up. You have to give what you can for the child. No, it's your feeling. You have a right to feel that way. It's what you do after that matters. And this is very important to say, because there's this Igbo saying, I don't know how to speak Igbo, so I don't want to butcher it so that you people don't come for me. But I know that saying, that adage has always stood true for me. And it says that whenever your morning comes, I think that's whenever your morning dawns is when you wake up. I mean, something like that. But basically what it's saying is that, the same thing, you can take the donkey to the water, to the river, whatever. If the donkey don't want to drink, it's not going to drink the water. So basically, it's your feeling. I'm feeling this way. You have a right to feel that way. But it's what you do after with that feeling. When you've acknowledged that this is what I'm feeling, what do you do? I would advise you take time to process the feeling, the news. Take time to process it because, it's a big news. Yay! Someone gave it to me. Whenever you wake up is your morning. Thank you. I know that someone was going to help me rephrase it. I love that saying because I say it a lot because sometimes I'll be confused and I'm like, okay, now you are aware that you are confused. What do you do with it now? That's whenever you wake up is your morning. Yeah. Thank you. I love this team. You guys are fantastic. You're not going to let me derail. All right. So moving on to the next point. So we've talked about how you're feeling and what this is all about and everything. In time, I want to encourage whoever is out there to know that in time you would recognize the person you are today. You won't recognize the person you are today. And in the years that come, your child is going to learn, make progress, change, and so will you. And what a diagnosis gives is a guide, a starting point, a chance to find and create the right support that your child needs. That's all that a diagnosis gives. That's all that a diagnosis gives. A diagnosis does not give you solution. Because we talk a lot about, diagnosis. A diagnosis doesn't give you solution to what's going on. All it does is tell you what is happening. So now that you know what is happening, what do you do next? And I would give you a classic example because I started with saying that in time you won't recognize the person you are, and then your child will always make progress and change and all of that. The person I am right now talking to you isn't the person I was. How old is praying? Praise 8. Okay, it wasn't the person I was 6 years ago. It wasn't the person, because it's very important to put it that way. Is the person I am today isn't even the person I was 4 years ago, isn't the person I was 3 years ago. So I look back and I'm like, wow, if someone had told me that I would be this person today, coming out, advocating, talking to parents, and sharing the load and burden with parents and caregivers, I would have laughed at them because I would have simply said, I haven't even finished sorting myself. You want me to sort another person? Are you joking? But I feel like we can be weighed down by so much of what we are processing at the moment that it blocks us from seeing the future. But when you are awake, it's time to move. Yes, even last year I was different from today. Exactly. Even last year, even yesterday, don't even go too far. Who I was December 2022 is not the same person I am today. We grow every day, and so does our children on the spectrum. So as they are growing, it's very important for us to give them the tools that they require to grow into the person they are supposed to become. Now, note, I didn't say the person you want them to become. I said the person they are to become. It's sometimes because we are grieving and all of that, we can be stuck in a picture, an image of what we want our child to look like or be like, or, and so it's a never ending circle. And you see us, we're stuck. We can't move. And we keep, and guess what? The child is growing. It's growing. So what you are doing is that you are not providing the child with the tools for him to grow. So if you don't put in, the child doesn't have anything to draw from. Okay, now let me back it up a bit because I think I've even gone too fast. So we'll slow down again and come back to basic. So your understanding about autism and what it means to your child will start to help your child to grow. Very important. And that's where education comes in, parent education. Because if you are not educated, you don't know what to look out for. You don't know how to advocate for your child's needs. You don't know where to begin to unpack all of these things that they've told you during diagnosis. Because remember that I'd said to you before that diagnosis is not a solution. Diagnosis simply is a guide, a starting point, a chance to find and create the right support that your child needs to thrive. So, what is a diagnosis? What is an autism diagnosis? Okay. I will start by giving you the technical definition because I don't want anybody to come for me. Then I will now give you the own definition that I have defined it as it should be. So, by definition, autism is defined as a developmental disability characterized by difficulty in social interaction and communication with repetitive behavior. Now, what does that mean? All these things that I've said, what does that mean? In all of this definition, it doesn't say bad parenting. I want you to note that. Autism didn't say bad parenting. Autism didn't say it's something that is communicable. Autism didn't say it's a disease. Autism definition, simply put, is a developmental disability characterized by difficulty in social interaction and communication with repetitive behavior. So we'll take it one at a time. When they say social interaction and communication, what are they saying? Simply put, the way your child experiences the world, how he sees the world, how he views the world, how he hears, how he speaks. That's just it. Long and short, that's social communication and interaction. Now, when you say the world is large. But guess what? And the world is environment. We're talking about how does your child interact with his environment? Repetitive behavior. Oh, my child does not exhibit any repetitive behavior. Oh, I hear them say it's until the child is flapping his hands, the child is humming to himself, the child is spinning, the child is this, that. So that's repetitive, or lining up toys. That's repetitive behavior. But guess what? It might be that your child just likes one line in the entire of a movie. And every time he gets to that line, he repeats it back again once he passes that line, just to get to that same line that and he will laugh at it. That's repetitive behavior. Sometimes it might be that your child likes sameness. I want something done the same, in the same way, in the same pattern, day in, day out. No change. Repetitive behavior. Your child might not be flapping, spinning, doing that. But when you're taking notes and you're meeting with your doctor and then he says, oh, do you see any behavior that your child engages in over and over and over again? That's the question they're asking you. Am I speaking? Great job. Now, yes, so basically I've told you what I understand by the definition and how it's not, autism is not a self-inflicted anything. So it's not self-inflicted. I don't want people, because sometimes you hear, oh, it's because I didn't do X, Y, and Z when I was pregnant. Autism does not, is something that the child is born with. And it's not a disease. It's not. It's just a developmental disability caused by a difference in the brain. So when they say it's a neurodevelopmental disease, I think I should say a neurodevelopmental disease. Sorry, why am I saying disease again? Sorry, a neurodevelopmental delay. So what they're saying is that there's a delay with how the brain is developing. Right? Oh, okay. Love how you are breaking it down into bits. Thank you, because I just want to thank you, Fatih. I just want, most times when the doctors talk to us, they talk in the big grammar, and then we're like, okay, what does this mean? And then the next thing is that we run straight to Dr. Google. And then Dr. Google then will now give us all sorts of definition that in fact would depress us more than what the doctor has even said to us. And then, we find ourselves in a rut and we're spinning round and round and round. And I just want people to understand that, yes, I'm not saying don't go to Google for all of the definitions and the terms and all the things that the doctor has said to you. But I need you to breathe and know that it's going to be okay. And also know that for it to be okay, what you believe for it to be okay, it has to be what you put in. What you put in will make the difference. But we'll get to that, about what you're putting in. But first, I want you to believe that, yes, they've defined it. They've given you the diagnosis, but they have not told you the future of the child. Because nobody really knows the future. Nobody does. We can predict how the future will go, but it doesn't mean that we know the future. We can predict, but we don't know for certain. We cannot say 100%, okay, you say, oh, my child has X, Y, and Z diagnosis, 100% this is what's going to happen. I mean, I have had a situation whereby when my son was 3, a teacher walked up to me and said to me that, sometimes not all children get potty trained. So not all children on the autism spectrum gets potty trained. So maybe your son is one of those children that will never get potty trained. I was like, huh? I mean, first I was stunned. And then I say, you don't know the future. My child has a diagnosis of autism does not mean you should define my child by that diagnosis. You can't define his strength by that or what he's going to be by that. And it challenged me as a parent to put all of my effort, all of my knowledge, all the things, and work with my child. And guess what? It was potty trained. Even the teacher and the schools had been doing, and then the teacher then came point blank to tell me that, look, we can't do it. It's not possible. Some children on the spectrum don't ever get. And I'm like, that won't be my story. You can't tell me my story. My story is still unwritten. You don't own my future. I can dictate how that story would turn into by what I put in to the story, to the journey. And behold, less than 1 month, 2 weeks, that was it. Completely, plus night and day. In fact, but because I'd left the school, I was so upset because I was so upset. I was going to go to the school and then rub it in the teacher's face, like, got you, da 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 da. Like I said, I'm goofy. But then, what's the use? I'm sure over time, I've told the story over time that I'm sure that teacher has heard this story and she knows herself and she knows she messed up by thinking she could determine my child's future just because of a diagnosis. Guess what? I'm laughing last. Back to our story. Fatih, it looks like it's only you and me that we are engaging in this conversation. But yeah. So, back to our story. Yes. Oh, where was I? Yes. So, autism does not mean you have an illness or disease. It's something you are born with. Great. So, now what next? Now that I know that it's just something that I'm born with, what do I do with that? What are the early signs that you have to watch out for? Because I see some people say to me, the diagnosis didn't happen until XYZ time or whatever. They are early signs. And I'll tell you what the classic early signs are. And then I will tell you what I noticed with my son. So, what are the early signs? Poor speech or lack of speech. Not responding to name. poor eye contact. I'll break everything down to you just the way I've been doing with all the other things. Hello. So, poor speech or lack of speech, not responding to name, poor eye contact, seems to be in his own world, lacks awareness to danger, oversensitivity to sound, light, unusual attachment to specific object or toy, repetitive behavior, which we already unpacked earlier, no babbling / pointing or meaningful gesture by 12 months. So that's one thing that you can almost immediately notice by 12 months, you know. No social smiling by 6 months. Yeah. So sometimes, well, let me read all of this, then I'll unpack it one after the other, like I promised. Loss of skills at any age, no one-word communication by 16 months, no two-word phrases by 24 months, not showing item or sharing interest. Professionals will call this joint attention. I will unpack all of that one after the other. Then some other signs: difficulty dealing with change to routine, inappropriate play with toy. Okay, now let's unpack what all that grammar means, one after the other. Poor speech or lack of speech. So some people will say, well, he has speech. Yes, but you have to watch what, like, for example, I'll tell you a classic one. With my son at he met all of his milestones, and I still have videos of my son at 12 months, 15 months, using his words, saying some things that were expected of a child of his age. I cannot bring myself to delete those videos. But at the same time, I'm happy I was able to experience that, because that was a treasured moment for me to know that, yes, he did all of that. And then suddenly, he lost the skills, which is the loss of skills at any time that they're talking about. At 15 months, he wasn't having as much, or no, he wasn't having more of the words, but he still had those words. 18 months, he started having less of the words. At 20 months, he wasn't having any of the words at all. 22 months, guess what? We were baby babbling. Baby babbling. So, how was I able to keep track? And that's another thing as a parent. You should journal and keep track of your child's development. You should be, intentional. You're watching, okay, my child here, what's it doing? I'm not saying you should become police and police the child, because you have to enjoy the moments. Oh, yeah, someone says, I have my son smiling and clapping, and yeah, those videos, I cannot delete those videos. For the life of me, they are there. They are stored there, because it's just, it just shows me that it was this and then this happened. But it wasn't a design of me, or, I didn't do anything. It was born with it. It's what I do after that matters. And guess what? I also have videos of my wonderful, amazing son having conversations. I have videos of my wonderful, amazing son manding, asking for what he wants, prompting, saying he wants this, he wants that, attending and attempting to join conversation. But I also have videos of my son not saying anything, nothing, lost in his world. So, like I said, we're unpacking. So, when people say poor speech or lack of speech, sometimes there's speech from the beginning, but then the child then loses the skills that he has gained, which is the skills of the speech, and then he loses it. So that happens. So those are things that you watch out for. When you see that your child is suddenly losing certain skills that he has gained, then that is a time for you to get the professionals involved. I'll get to the word, I'll get back to the professionals. It seems he's not responding to his name. There are times when you will see a little child and then you call the child's name. By 12 months, the child knows his name. And so you're calling repeatedly and the child is not answering. Or maybe until you tap or you move around, then something. It means there's something. Now, that doesn't mean that the child has autism. That's another thing that sometimes you see, we're quick, in this part of the world, we're quick to diagnose. So the next thing is, once the child is not, you say, oh, that child has autism. No. It could mean a whole lot more than autism. It could just be that the child has hearing problem and probably need to go and see an audiologist to check that his hearing is good. Even with the speech, it could be that the child developed an infection that has blocked the organs that he would use to produce speech. And so you don't jump in and say, oh, that child is not talking, he's not this, he's not that. He needs to see, he must be on the spectrum. No, you cannot conclude until you've checked all of the parameters and you're sure that, yes, the windpipe and all those things is not blocked, nothing is going on in there that is stopping the production of speech. It's at that point that you then now go to the next level. All right. So the next one is, it seems to be in a world of his own. Little children, once they start to, get ready to move around, you see them, they will pull you into their world, like, oh, mommy, come and see, or this, or, I want to go up, I want to do this. The minute you're seeing that the child is playing solo with all the loud noise and banging around, the child just seems to be in his own world. It's a sign for concern. Because you then now have to start, because remember that one of the characteristics of autism, one of the definitive characteristics of autism is social interaction, social communication, social interaction. What does social interaction mean? It means that, you should be able to join activities. You should be able, you cannot, there are times, yes, as an adult, you want to be by yourself. But then as an adult also, you want to be with your friends, with other people, common goals, common interest. When your child is not sharing those things, then it's cause for you to start to note and observe. I didn't say it's cause for you to say it's on the spectrum. It's cause for you to start to pull out your notepad and start with your observation. When did I observe this? What was he doing that was making him, what was the activity that was going on around and he wasn't participating in? Those, because most times that notepad you have in your hand is what you're going to go in to meet your doctor with, because they will ask you for all those interviews, like, oh, what do you think about this? And then in the midst of it all, you can be so overwhelmed with everything else that is going around you that you forget all those little details. But when you've observed and then you have your notes, those are the things that you'll be able to share. Oh, this was happening at this time. Oh, this was at this time that I noticed this X, Y, and Z. So, another one is lack of awareness of danger. They don't, sometimes something pricks the child and the child doesn't feel pain. Something is up. If something pricks you, you should, your pain sensors should come up and you should feel it, but a child that is not feeling it, something is up there. It doesn't mean that the child has autism. It just means that there are early signs for you to be concerned about. And it's not all children on the spectrum that experience this. Some experience it in a varied length. It's important to note that. It says here, okay, no one-word communication by 16 months, no two-word phrases. Like I said, I noticed that he had one word and then he didn't have one word anymore. So those, for me, were things that I was noting. Okay, not showing items, not sharing items, joint attention. Yes, so back to the joint attention, which I said I was going to unpack earlier. Okay, so you say, there are times when you are playing with your baby and then you go, wow, look at this. And then it looks. That's joint attention. Me and you are sharing interest in, that's just the basic layman definition of joint attention. The professionals will define it in a more structured manner, but basic thing is, I can say look, and my child looks with me. I can say see. We are sharing interest in this thing that I'm pointing out to say see. Joint attention. So if your child, you should say to your child, hey, high five, and the child is not seeing the hand or not even looking to see you to share the interest that you just did, then that's cause for concern. Now, I said no social smiling by 6 months. I remember that I was listening to one of my sisters who has an older child on the spectrum, and she did say that in retrospect, they noticed that our daughter, as young as before 12 months anyways, wasn't, you smile at her and she won't smile back, but they always just assumed that she was just, this is just George, they just assumed that was her nature. But guess what? She wasn't. And that is social communication, actually. Being able to smile, because smiling is like, I see you, I acknowledge what you're doing, I'm enjoying it, I'm smiling, I'm showing interest in what you're doing, I'm socializing. That's social smile. Not those ones that you get with babies when they are, when they're little and then they're sleeping and they're smiling, and that's just the gas, when the gas goes go, 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 and then it just produces the smile on their face, those reflective smile. No. So social smile is, I tickle the baby smiles. I do peekaboo, the baby smiles. That's social communication, that's social interaction. So if you have, and those things you can notice from 6 months, the child is not smiling back at me. This child is not engaging. Those are things that you can notice as early as 6 months. Does that mean that the child has autism? No. But not a no, but does that mean that the child has autism? I'm not sure. I don't know. But those are things you note down. When you're meeting with your doctor, I noticed this. I observed this. This is what I saw with my child. Those are the things that drive the communication and helps your doctor to understand more of what is going on and what they need to be looking at properly. Okay, so moving on, because I want this to be just the 1 hour that I promised it to be. So we have talked about early signs. So the next part of it is going to be, so what do we do? Sorry, I think I ran on and on and on and on with the early signs that sorry, give me a minute. Let me look for my notes. Found my notes. Now that you see these signs, where do I go? Great. So most times, if your child is already of school age, and you see that it's the teachers that will say, I noticed this, I noticed that, if your child is already in school. However, the teacher does not have a right to tell you that I noticed this, I noticed that, so that means your child is on the spectrum. Your teacher is just your teacher. Has no right whatsoever to diagnose your child that your child is on the spectrum just by observing your child in the classroom. Your teacher can make notes about all the things that I've just talked about and itemize it. X, Y, Z is what I noticed. And then with all of that, you also have your own observation at home. Combined with the two observation, you need to first meet your child's doctor. Yes, your child's doctor. Because remember, I had said initially that sometimes it just might not be autism. It just might be that they just need to check the child's hearing. It just might be that the child is not hearing you. It might just be that the doctor would then now, after looking and seeing, refer you to the audiologist to check all of the parameters, all the mechanism for hearing. That can the child really hear and understand what you're saying? You understand? There might be a physiological issue going on that is not allowing the child to interact with his environment. The doctor will check all the things, the mouth, the tongue, that is not that the tongue is stuck down, those kind of things, that so that they know that he can produce sound. They get him, and then after that is when the doctor would then now invite all the other people. Diagnosis for autism is a multidisciplinary diagnosis. Sometimes I hear people say, they come, they talk to me, and then they say, oh, my son's therapist diagnosed him that he has autism. And I say, interesting. What is your son's therapist qualification? Is your son's therapist a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist? Because you also need a clinical psychologist to be sure that everything is working as it should be. You need a speech pathologist to be sure that all the mechanism that is supposed to produce sound is working and is as it should be. Now, you don't say, oh, my speech therapist diagnosed my son with autism. Okay. But at any point, did you check with your child's doctor to be sure that maybe my child is not, Yes. We have the OT, it's a multidisciplinary diagnosis. Yes, evaluation. Yeah, that's the word, evaluation. Meaning that different professionals come together to make sure that they've ticked all the boxes. Because the truth is, we have some diagnoses that mimic autism, but it's not autism. So you need to be sure that you are putting the right... before they gave a diagnosis, exactly. You have all of those people come together and then they do a proper evaluation. It's after the evaluation is done that they can then now give you, a definitive, yes, your child is on the spectrum. And then some people will say, but I don't want the diagnosis. I don't want the label on my child. I don't know, no label. Don't give my child label. But guess what? If you have a headache, let's not say headache. If you have a pain in your body and the pain won't just go away, do you not go to a doctor to know exactly what the pain is and where the pain is coming from, so that you can be sure that you are treating that pain and not something else? So that's what a diagnosis is. It's just for you to know. What you make of it after that is up to you. But you cannot know, you cannot start to treat what you don't know. You have them doing a functional analysis test to know where your child's strengths are, where the weaknesses are. You see the OT coming in to see, okay, are the joints okay? Is everything, things, the mechanism that is supposed to work, is it in the right order? Now, someone says to me, okay, but do they have those kind of things in Nigeria? And truthfully, all the people that have brought on this show are people that have gotten their diagnosis outside the country. And so you're saying to yourself, okay, so you have finished saying all of these things now. Are you saying now until I take my child to Obodo Imbo before I get a diagnosis or a proper diagnosis for my child? No. You can get your diagnosis in Nigeria. Absolutely. I know that in Lagos, okay, so another thing that someone will say to me is that, yeah, but diagnosis is expensive, is this, is that, and I get it, yes. But guess what? Even abroad, if you decide to pay out of pocket, you pay a lump sum. You pay a fee. So that is if you want to get all of this evaluation done privately, you pay for it. But we do have government hospitals that do diagnosis. I know for a fact that child and adolescents in Oshodi, Lagos, Lutz, is it Lutz? Yeah, Lutz. They have a child and adolescent center in Oshodi. And they do that. They give you diagnosis. It's a government hospital. I don't know whether you pay, but I don't think that whatever you pay for is going to be as much, paying out of pocket as much as what it's going to cost you. Yeah, Lutz. If you went to a Premier Hospital, for example, which is a private hospital, which they do diagnosis also. So yes, indeed, we do have places that you can get proper evaluation done. proper diagnosis done. Because until you can get that, you can't begin to understand. I mean, yes, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, while you're waiting for the evaluation and the diagnosis and all of that, yes, you should do intervention. I'm not discouraging that, because I remember that when I was waiting for a diagnosis for my son, I'd been told, then it was 2, and I was told that they couldn't do a diagnosis until it was 3. But I was advised to start him on speech therapy, start him on early intervention, start him, and that's another one we're going to unpack another day, because that is a whole story entirely. Because a lot of people will tell you, oh, we're doing early intervention. What is early intervention? What age qualifies for early intervention? Are you saying if I've missed early intervention, I can't get intervention for my child again? That's a lie. People learn every day. Only that at a particular age to a particular age, a child's brain is more elastic. And so you can put in, it's still growing, and your brain still keeps growing, I think until age 15, according to what they said. I don't know. But it's just not going to grow as fast as it was growing as age 2. So that's what they mean by early intervention. So while it's still, we can still put a lot, let's put a lot so that we can make sure that we get the very best, outcome in this situation. Okay, so my time is almost up and I have so many things. Okay, where can I get it? I've just said some places, and I will be putting a list of on my page. I'm going to put in a list of where this diagnosis can be done, and I'm going to make a list of where you can go to, and then put it on my page so that anybody can just go pick it up, and then you can use it or refer or whatever. Okay, so the next is, now I have a diagnosis. What next? How do I start to advocate for my child's needs? And how do I help my child? Because usually that's another ball game entirely. Because some people say, okay, you say the diagnosis is to help me just know what is going on. Okay, now I know what's going on. What next? So unlike the Western world where there's a process and then they take you, now you have your diagnosis, you go to CDC, you register with this, you register with that, they put you in the system, they get you, you get your insurance to cover X, Y, and Z, you're covering. We don't have that kind of system in Nigeria. And most times what you get is a lot of our parents are in a limbo. Because not only are you just trying to unwrap your head around the fact that, okay, they just told me that this is what's going on. What do I do with it? And most times that is when parents fall into, pray with all these other people that are just there to extort you or whatever. And what I always tell to parents is the first thing you need to do is educate yourself. Educate yourself about your child's diagnosis. Educate yourself about what your child needs. Know the areas of your child's strength. Because if you don't know what your child, if you don't educate yourself about your child's diagnosis, you cannot begin to understand what the needs are or where you need to go. I see a lot of parents are in a limbo and then they're frustrated and they're thinking to themselves, okay. So you say get a diagnosis. I've gotten a diagnosis. So X comes to me and says, I'm just a teacher. Or most times you even hear some parents who say, oh, my friend's daughter had my friend's daughter is on the spectrum, and then she had a therapist that worked with with the child, and they did and the child was fantastic. Use this person. If the person isn't a trained therapist, a trained professional, what would happen is that the person might not be able to unpack properly what a child's diagnosis is. And so you hear they've taken my child. My child has then now, there was a fast, rapid growth, and now he has plateaued, and I don't know what to do next. There is plateaued. What do I do next? Okay. Sometimes you hear, oh, okay, sorry, I know what I'm going to do with this whole thing, because I've said 1 hour and I'm looking at the time and I realized that I've overshot my that time. So we're just going to continue this part 2 of all of this next week, but just trying to give you like an intro to what we're going to be discussing next week. But like I said, you already have a diagnosis, and now what do you do next? Educate yourself, train yourself, know what it is that you need to do. Get those people, for example, when you do the evaluation, they will tell you my child has, oh sorry, someone sent a request. Okay, so I have Jumi Jasper wants to join. Okay, so I'm going to accept, and then yes. So you get the diagnosis, right? And in that evaluation, they will give you recommendations as to, okay, this is the recommendation. Your child, a speech pathologist, for example, has examined your child, and they said these are the areas where your child would need intervention. Sometimes you hear a therapist will say, oh, I can do OT, I can do speech, I can do behavior. Run. They will say, don't worry, I will manage the account for your child. I will just draw up a plan. Run. Because the therapist that is saying that, is he a trained OT specialist? Is he a trained speech? Except if what they are saying to you is there is a program that has been drawn up for your child, and we will follow this program. And at every point in time on this program, we would evaluate the progress of the child. Sometimes you get parents saying to me, oh, okay, I want to cut off. And then there are different kind of interventions. That's very important to put in. Okay. We have the behavior, ABA, applied behavior intervention, applied behavior analysis. And it's so popular here. And I know that a lot of people sign up for that and everything. But then also you have a lot of people that are not doing it the right way. So someone says to you, oh, I'm going to be doing ABA. Am I doing some part of, am I borrowing some technique from ABA to apply to this situation? Or am I doing full ABA intervention with your child? Thank you, Fatih. But we're going to have to turn off soon. It's in the next 4 minutes, but thank you. Exactly. ABA is very wide. And then sometimes you see some people will tell you, oh, okay, don't worry, I can do it. They need to tell you how they want to do it. And that's where education for you as a caregiver is very important. Because if you don't know the right question to be asking, then you see you've done 2 years, 1 year, but you cannot measure progress. Any plan someone is giving you that is not target driven, that is not they don't give a duration for them to evaluate and assess whether any plan that is not showing all those things, run. Because what they're doing is they're copying and pasting. They're using one model, one method that's worked with one person to come and do for you. They have not taken time out to identify what your areas of weaknesses are and what tools are best suited to bridge the gap. And that's why you see some therapists, they hit a wall. Because what they've done is, oh, okay, fine, I've used this, it's worked with 4 children. Remember that meeting one child with autism is just one child with autism. It doesn't define that, oh, because I've met one child with autism means I've met all the children. It's a spectrum. I can be up here on this and down here this. It's a spectrum. And it's not a linear spectrum. Because that's another thing. People say, oh, no, the child is high functioning, is this. Forget that. And let's come down to where exactly is the child's strength in X, Y, and Z? Where is he needing intervention? How can we use this strength that this child has to bridge the gap of the intervention? Just to make sure that, okay, is weak in this area, is strong in this area. How can we bridge it? Yeah. So I think this is where I'm going to pause for this week. And next week, we're going to be unpacking some more with intervention, with, you already have the diagnosis, what to do next with it, all of that. We're going to unpack all of that next week. We're going to do all of that next week. So, because it's going to kick me out now, and I don't want to kick me out because in time past, I've noticed that once I'm done with 1 hour, next thing, I get kicked out. So I'm trying to be sure that, so I'm going to just conclude now and say, as parents, it's important to maintain awareness regarding any developmental delay or related symptoms. You need to remind yourself of who you are with the small wins and remember to breathe. As long as you're breathing with your seatbelt fastened, you can help your child fasten his own seatbelt. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, you can't give what you don't have. Okay? Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for contributing. And I hope you'll join me next week so that we can unpack all the other parts that we were not able to unpack today. So, with all of that, I say bye-bye. Thank you. Au revoir. Bye.